Today's episode of Champions Chat is sponsored by Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark No-Kill Rescue has served the Lakeway area since 1991. They have placed thousands of really great dogs and cats with the help of community members just like you. Check out Noah's Ark's list of adoptable pets on petfinder.com. To learn how you can support this community partner, or for more information about their spay and neuter program, check out their information on petfinder.com. That's Noah's Ark with a C on petfinder.com.
Welcome to our inaugural broadcast of Morristown West Champion Chat. And we're really excited to have Megan Moceri, Megan Moceri, who is a graduate of the 2008 West High class. And before we get started with Megan, I'm going to take just a minute and share with you really what kind of inspired us to do this. We knew that we had a great number of really remarkable graduates from West High who've gone on and done some interesting things. And we really felt like that those former students could be an awesome inspiration to our current students. So that was really kind of the impetus or where we started. And Megan was really a willing participant and eager to be a part of this, and we're pleased that she would join us today. So Megan will get started. And as I said, class of 2008. So why don't we start with you just sharing with us a little bit about your experiences while you were here at West High?
Thank you, Miss Hall. I'm still trying to get used to calling you Kim.
Please.
I still feel like I should call you Miss Hall. So like you said, I did graduate in the spring of 2008. My experience was somewhat typical of a regular high school kid. Of course, now, if people are listening to this, it's probably changed what the typical experience would be. But, 4 years, I did my classes, and I know we'll get into a little bit more of it later, but high school is a time of learning how to drive and being excited about what's to come after high school because you feel like you are just almost there with each passing year.
While you weren't a student of mine, I knew you when you were here. And I have some memories of exchanges that we had, maybe just passing during bus duty or something like that. But do you have some favorite class memories, maybe particular teachers or classes that you loved or classes that were challenging?
Absolutely. So while at Morristown West, definitely some of my favorite classes and ultimately some of my most challenging classes were always my English classes. It's really where I kind of developed that love-hate relationship with reading, trying to figure out what kind of books interested me, which ones I was not interested in. Writing is a big part of what I do now, so it is absolutely crucial to learn some fundamental skills, although legal writing is very different from the writing you learn in school. Still, there are commas everywhere, and you have to know where to place them. And aside from that, my second love as a student was always social studies classes, geography classes. That's actually what my bachelor's degree is in. So as far as teachers go, Kelly Walker was probably the most loved teacher in my time at West High School. I hope she is still there, and I hope students still love her. And then Miss Duvall was actually my geography teacher and probably my government teacher, I think, which was also foundational into helping me get where I am now.
I think you would love to know that Kelly Walker is still here. She is part of our freshman class. And then Ms. Duvall is still teaching U.S. government, or not yet. Yeah, it's U.S. government. Yeah, she is still here. So, and they'll be really pleased to hear that you said those kind of things. And I think I think the way you characterized both of those women was very fitting. Yeah. So I'm curious, outside of classes, what were you doing? Were you involved in anything extracurricular, either through school or maybe just outside of school? Like, what were you doing for fun?
So as far as extracurriculars go, I wasn't incredibly involved in student life on the school campus. I certainly had friends and I had like a very wide and ranging group of friends. I wasn't just kind of a one-click gal. I was able to actually kind of talk with different groups of people and maintain friendships even to this day. But also, my my life didn't allow for a lot of extracurriculars. It was certainly because I was shy on one end, but on the second end, it was that I had to work constantly. So when I wasn't at school, I was normally working at Aeropostale in the mall or a tanning salon or babysitting somebody's children. Um, definitely going to football games was a huge part of my life for at least 2 to 3 years of high school and certainly my senior year. But extracurriculars are definitely something I wish I'd done a little more of.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, working, that's probably something that students today still find to present a challenge. If they have jobs, how do I balance that with preparing for classes? I know you were a good student, so I think that was something that you made a priority. I mean, I feel like with your grades being what they were, but you were in the position of balancing work responsibilities with doing well in school and doing your best there. So do you have like, I know this is kind of silly, but I have a memory of you coming in. I was on bus duty. I bet you don't remember this. It's weird how you remember these little odd moments, but you had done a project for a class and you were coming in with that project. And I was opening the door for you and you were sharing with that. And it was like, I want to think you had designed like a t-shirt or something. It was something that you had taken and like done sort of some kind of creative representation on it. But I remember that moment because I knew you, obviously. But so I have memories of sort of these random experiences with students. I'm wondering, do you have some memory? It could have been something that happened in a class, maybe a conference with your senior guidance counselor. Is there some kind of memory that really stands out that it could involve teachers or counselors or other classmates, anything like that that really kind of sticks out in your mind?
Absolutely. So I know that now you guys allow maybe seniors to paint the parking spots, and I'm very jealous of that because that was not a thing when I was there. But being a senior and getting to drive to school, if you're fortunate enough, I had to save up the money to buy my first car. Um, so I was able to drive to school my senior year, and I had a group of friends that would meet in a certain area of the parking lot every morning, and we would stand out and talk to each other. And, those moments are priceless in my mind because um, some of those friends are no longer with us. And I, like I said, I cherish those moments now, just standing out there before class and talking and, kind of being excited for the thrill of senior year and doing all of those little things that mean so much, even if you don't recognize it at the time. Looking back at it now, I'm pretty sure we looked like the King of the Hill guys out by Hank Hill's fence because it was just a row of us probably saying yep in front of a row of trucks.
I keep thinking your experiences were all sort of centered around connections you made with your classmates and just those small moments that it didn't have to be something monumental, but just those times of sharing. Same thing with the teachers that you mentioned. It sounded like you you felt a connection to. And that's something I think we try to encourage students, or I do today, is to build relationships with your classmates or with teachers, because they can really, just having that support network can make a difference in your success, or just the experience itself, even beyond the success. Um, any regrets? Anything that you look back on? Any advice that you would like to give 16, 17, 8-year-old Megan Balance?
So as an adult, I don't love the word regret because I'm one of those people that thinks, every experience, good or bad, kind of shapes who you are in the moment. But definitely, like I said, looking back now, I wish I would have been more extroverted and maybe done some extracurriculars. I think there was definitely some room could have been made to do one or two things just to kind of get myself out there, especially more in leadership roles and kind of learning how to communicate effectively with other people, learning how to take in different ideas and still be respectful. I think that's a great tool, and I think that's something that I certainly didn't learn until later on in college. Um, as far as advice, I think it's best to do what suits your schedule. Like I said, I had to work a lot, and some students that you're doing the best you can to juggle being a good student and a job, and you don't want to overschedule yourself. You want to leave time to kind of run around town and have fun on Friday night. So definitely just enjoy the moment and don't feel like you have to be doing something every second of the day. But really make sure that you're getting the most of it.
One of the things that you described as how you perhaps wish you had been, I see that in you as an adult woman and as a professional and as a mother. So I think that's a great testament to the growth that you clearly shown. So let's move on. Let's kind of fast forward out of high school. Uh, this next question, I don't know if you think back, if you're thinking about classmates. You mentioned those times in the parking lot. How do you think your classmates would remember you if they were talking about Megan Balance? How would maybe they have described Megan Balance as a high school classmate and as a friend?
So I think the majority of people remember me as being funny and being kind and never taking myself too seriously, which is something that absolutely still holds true today.
Maybe that's some advice you could suggest to students. Don't take yourself so seriously. Laugh, have fun. If you do something goofy, just go with it. Yeah, and
Exactly.
I would definitely think that about you back when you were a student. So if you, as I said, we moved out of high school. Tell us what happened. You graduated, and then what?
Yeah, when I graduated in 2008, at that time there was a real push for everybody to go to college, even if you didn't know what you wanted to do. There was just this extreme push to go to college and you'll get it figured out. As long as you have a college degree, it'll be fine. Um, I am actually a first generation college graduate. At the time I went to college, I was only the second person in my family to take a college class. So I am no longer the only college graduate in my family, thankfully, but it was a very scary idea to go to college. At the time, I wanted to be a nurse, so I applied to Walter State, not only because they have an amazing nursing program, but because I could go for free at that time. And like I said, money was sort of an issue. So I started off by going to Walter State, and I went there for 2.5 years, and then I transferred to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where I went for 2.5 years, which, yes, that means I went for an extra year of college. I like to take a little longer than those people. And then after going to the University of Tennessee, I took a break for, I guess, about 6 years, and I was a stay-at-home mom. for 6 years. And then I decided to take my LSAT and enroll in law school. And so that typically takes 3 years. Again, it took me 4 years. And now I am an attorney in Shelby County.
Okay, I had no idea about your nursing background. So I'm learning about you. And I'm curious, so if I ask you, did you do what you maybe had planned on doing as a high school student? Your answer would probably be yes, and that was the nursing. At what point or what led you to think that law school and being an attorney, was there a catalyst for that, or was it just to challenge yourself? Because I do think you're an ambitious woman. How did that kind of play about?
I went to Walter State as kind of trying to pick a practical job. I wanted something practical, something I could get very quickly, something I didn't have to pay a lot of money for. And I did, it's not like I wasn't interested. I did have this empathy inside of me that I have always had. I am great at relating to others and trying to figure out where they're coming from and trying to meet another person's needs when and if I can. But at some point when I was raising my children and was not having very much success using my bachelor's degree, I kind of got to thinking, what would I do in my wildest dreams? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? And it was to be a lawyer. When I was a little kid, that's definitely what I wanted to be. But it just seemed so unattainable and unreachable that I never really thought I was going to be able to do that. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I had enough discipline. But, I just went out there and tried.
This was a question, and that was, did you find that your goals changed after graduation? And so I love hearing that you really followed the path that you had sort of predetermined based on several factors. But then when your experiences as a mother, that opened you up to thinking about other opportunities for an education for yourself and for a professional goal as well. So I love that you followed that, and sort of stepped out, and clearly were successful with it. So congratulations. That's nice to hear.
Thank you.
As we kind of reflect back, so we've kind of got an idea of your high school experiences and then what's happened after that. Think about maybe going back to that high school student. Can you think of a decision that you made as a high school student that really impacted you later in life? And it could be about, it could have something to do with course selection or just your work ethic or some sort of, consideration outside of the classroom. But was there a decision that you think really has had the greatest impact on you as an adult?
I don't think that there was one decision that has a lasting impact to today, other than high school is kind of the age when you are starting to grow up in a sense, and you feel so grown up and you feel like you're in charge of your school for the first time and where you go and how you get there. And I think that was kind of a shaping time for me where I was starting to realize that the onus was on me. Like if I wanted to keep going to school afterwards, nobody was going to do that for me. You're kind of automatically enrolled in grade school year after year. But if you want to do that, afterwards, after 12th grade, you have to take the initiative. And going forward, nothing's kind of handed to you and nothing is kind of a given. You always have to be persistent in what you want and you have to be patient. And so, you'll hear people my age tell you things that like high school doesn't matter, and I get what they mean when they say that, but it really does, because high school is the launching point to teach you the discipline that is required to keep going. And whether that be college and other things, or whether starting a job and learning to pay your bills and, take care of your family. High school is that launching point for that discipline that is needed for the rest of your life. And so while maybe one decision didn't have the biggest impact, just learning to be in control of yourself as you navigate that high school experience is really, when you begin to take ownership of, okay, I'm going to try my best, even though nobody's making me in high school, that is the decision you're making to continue forward, I think.
So the realization of that personal accountability is kind of what I'm hearing, just like it's on me now. And I think that kind of leads me, I was thinking about your accomplishments in several aspects of your life. What would you say, if you were going to identify something that you're most proud of? It could be professional, personal. And again, I love that we're going from that accountability and taking on that responsibility of making those decisions. So now, based on that, what are those things that you're proud of?
So I would say that, the thing I'm most proud of personally and professionally kind of mixes together, because my experience has been very untraditional and kind of a winding road of figuring it out as I went along. And so the thing I'm most proud of personally is obviously my family and my children. Like I said, I am married and I have a daughter and a son. But without them, I wouldn't have gotten to my proudest professional goal, which is being an attorney. I had to rely on them, and they had to sacrifice for me in order to do this. I mean, I uprooted my family and moved from East Tennessee to Memphis, so that way we could all just make this happen. And nobody batted an eye. Nobody thought it was, in my immediate family, nobody thought it was weird, or they were just like, oh, well, she got into law school, so we have to follow her where she goes. And, I had done the same in the previous 6 years by staying home and raising our children and paying off all our debts to be able to afford to do this. So there was sacrifice on the front end by me, but there was sacrifice in return by them for us being able to do this. And so, I'm proud of the family I built, that we have each other's backs that way.
Mentioning that untraditional path and that winding path that you've taken, I think that may be becoming more common today. So maybe the untraditional path is becoming more traditional. And so, again, talking about the sacrifice that your family's made, even just time, you've had to invest time in your classwork, in your studies. And so that's something to be proud of, that willingness and that, working through that as a family. I think that's important. I'm curious about this next question. Tell me somebody that's been a big influence in your life. Who would that person be?
So I would have to say it's two people. And so I would say, first and foremost, my grandfather, being primarily raised by my grandparents. My grandfather is a completely self-made man. He did not have more than a high school education. Probably shouldn't have gotten that if he was telling the truth. And, just a boy from White Pine who, did not have any family money. And if he wanted to be able to eat and provide for his own family, he had to get out there and hustle. And he did that. And not only with me, but with his other granddaughters, he was very much, the unknowing feminist. Like, don't ever think that you need anybody to support you. You can do this yourself. Don't take any flack off of anybody. It's up to you, and the horror stories you hear of helping, fathers change a tire or change a light bulb or do something, and having the tools thrown at your head and the terrible words spouted as you learn how to fix something. That's what he was doing with his granddaughters. So, we were rough and ready for the world that was out there. As far as the second person, it would definitely be my husband. Generally, when talking about my experience, I don't like to mention to younger people that I met my husband at Morristown West and that we have been together for 18 years and married for 13, because I think it gives young people a little bit of a false hope that is super common. It isn't, but we grew up together, and for us, it just seemed to pan out that the more we went through, the closer it brought us. And so we both made that lasting impression on each other over all these years.
I'm sure that both your grandfather and your husband are really proud of you. I know your grandfather must be really proud of you, not only getting one degree, but multiple degrees. So that's really nice. We're going to end with asking this final question. And it is, if you were talking to, and as a mother, this may be even more impactful, because I think you have to think of your children a lot. But as someone speaking to students today, would you have any kind of advice for them?
The advice I would have is to be persistent and to be patient. I talked about the role that English teachers, and certainly that you and I, our relationship is based on books largely, but the book that is going to be most relevant in your life is Oh, the Places You Will Go by Dr. Seuss, because there is no book that is more true to the human condition, because you will be in the waiting place and it will stink, and people will tell you no and it will stink. And you just have to find a way, if it means something to you, to persevere through all of that. And learning to be patient and waiting for your time to come is almost unbearable, but it's possible.
Megan, I think that was wonderful. And I do think sometimes the biggest lessons we learn in life come from simple context and a simple message that really resonates with the audience. So thank you for sharing that. Megan, I think that's it for us. I really appreciate you taking some time. West High's awfully proud to have professionals like you out in communities making us proud, and really sort of carrying on that tradition of the champion. And you've shown that in your persistence, in your pursuit of some professional goals. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.